Well, hi, welcome again to a reading through of 2 Timothy, and I got up to chapter 3. Lots of difficult vocabulary in some of these sections, so I'm just going to do this slowly in 2 sections, in 2 recordings. So it's tuto de ginoske, hoti en escatais hemerais, en stesontai kairoi kalepoi. Just pause it there. So, but know this, that in last days, so we would say in the last days, but in last days, en stesontai. This is from this is a future middle from en histemi, but you get this odd combination of nu and sigma, which is not that common in Greek. Normally you have to put a linking vowel of some sort here, but it's en stesontai, future middle. So it means will stand there, so will be imminent, will be at hand. And it's difficult seasons will be, so in the last days, difficult seasons, difficult times will be imminent, will be at hand. Esontai ga hoi anthropoi. Now we get this very, very long list. So it's phil autoi, phil aguroi, alatzones, hupe ephanoi, blasphemoi, gonusin apathes, akaristoi, anosioi, astorgoi, aspondoi, diaboloi, akrates, anemeroi, phil agathoi, prodotai, propetes, tetophomenoi, phil adonoi, malon a philothioi. I'll finish off. Ekontes morphosin eusebeas, ten de dunamen autes arnemenoi. For men will be, or perhaps humanity, because it's anthropos often is much more general. So humanity will be or will become phil autoi, lovers of themselves, that is selfish. This only here in biblical Greek. Elsewhere there is an abstract noun phil autia, which has a positive sense of having self-respect, but here this is a negative word meaning lovers of oneself and hence selfish. Phil aguroi, lovers of money. Aladzones, braggarts, people who brag a lot. Huper ephanoi, arrogant. Blasphemoi, blasphemers. Apathes gonusin, disobedient to their parents. Akaristoi, well, ungracious, something like that for akaristoi. Nosioi, now this is not from nosos, this is alpha privative plus a linking nu, the hos root here of holy. So it means lacking in holiness, so irreligious. Astorgoi, lacking in natural affection. The New Testament's got, well, Greek has a number of words for love. We only get 2 in the New Testament, phileo and agapao. Erao, sexual love, is nowhere mentioned in the New Testament. There is another word, sturgo, which also can have the meaning of love. It means to show affection towards. This is with a vowel gradation. This is from that same root of stergo, and then alpha privative. So lacking in natural affection. It does occur in Romans as well, but it's fairly rare in the New Testament. Aspondoi, well, in classical Greek, spondai, which is a plural, refers to a truce. It's connected with spendo, to pour a libation, because when you make a truce, you pour libations and make your truce before the gods and so on. And hence this aspondoi adjective has the sense of unable to make a truce with, and hence becomes implacable. In other words, you're not prepared to compromise. It's implacable, unbending. It's only here in the New Testament. diaboloi, now not devils but slanderers. Diaballo is to slander. Akrates, well, unable to control yourself. It's alpha privative plus that kratio, so hence intemperate. It's only turns up once apparently in the Septuagint. Unameroi. Now ameros is a good classical root meaning to tame, and this is again alpha privative plus linking new, and this means untamed, hence savage. Only here in biblical Greek. Aphilagothoi, again out more alpha privatives. In fact, we get lots of alpha privatives in this section. Philagothoi, without love for the good. Again, only here. This word apparently only here in all of Greek. I said these books 1 and 2 Timothy are full of very interesting Greek words that occur very rarely elsewhere. This one occurs nowhere else, but the meaning's pretty clear. It's without love for the good. Prodotai. Now, progeudami is to betray, so these are traitors. Propetes is something like rushing ahead, so hence reckless or headstrong. And we've had this one before. It's generally it's a perfect passive participle in form. It sort of has connected with the word with the smoke, so it's sort of it generally translated conceited. It means you can't see clearly, you're just acting blindly in a conceited way, and so generally rendered as conceited, but it is in form a perfect passive participle from to fa'o or to fa'o. Phil Adenoi, lovers of pleasure. You get haidamai is the verb I please, and this is lovers of pleasure. Lovers of pleasure more than lovers of gods, or perhaps lovers of God would be better, I think, here. Having a morphosis, having a form of piety, but having denied, this is a perfect here from aneomai, to deny, it's a deponent middle, but having denied its power. So having a form of piety, but having denied its power. Kai tutus apotrepu. So turn away from these things. Now you might have expected perhaps a genitive after the apo here, but it's taking an accusative. So perhaps shun these things might be better in English. Ek tuton ga esin hoi en dunontes estas oikias kai eis kmalotizontes gunai karia sesarumena hamatiais agomina epithumiais poikilais pantoti manthanonta kai me depoti es epignosin aletheas elthane dunamina. So we've had this here as shun these things, and now the hoi en dunontes, en duo is to put on. This is a funny expression here, funny meaning here. It's got the sense of to insinuate yourselves, to get, it's that sorry, not en duo, it's en duno. And in fact, that word only occurs here in the New Testament. Sorry, I confused it with en duo, but it's not, it's en duno, cognate, of course, but it has the sense of insinuating themselves. Ek two-tone must mean something like, from among such ones that we've just been talking about, there are the ones insinuating themselves, in other words, getting themselves into the houses, and Ike malotizontes, and capturing this is a funny word. Aikmalatisto is to take as a, it's literally someone who's taken by the spear. So it's from aikme, a spear, the halo, hal root from haliskamai, the passive of hyrio. So it's taking captive, what I was looking for. It's literally those taken by the spear. So taking captive, it's used metaphorically here. Gunai karia. Now this is a diminutive, it's a neuter, so it's gunai karion, this is neuter plural, accusative, and it means silly women, apparently. And it's a diminutive. So those who, so from among those people I mentioned above, are those who get themselves into, they insinuate themselves into the houses and taking captive silly women who are sesarumina, who are laden down or burdened with sins. And it takes a dative here. It's connected with soros, which means a heap. So having a heap upon you and you're burdened or laden down. It's only here and in Romans 12:20. So just to do that bit again, so it's very tricky. Having taken captive silly women who are burdened or laden down with sins. Agomina, this is a neuter plural passive participle, being led by all sorts of desires. So being led, we'd say being led astray by all sorts of desires. Pantoti, always, and again it continues here, this is again as a neuter plural participle, it's agreeing back with this gunai karia, this neuter plural. But it's referring to these women here who are being led astray. So always, manthanonta, always learning, and udepoti, and never, and another one of these neuter participles, being able to come into the full knowledge of truth. So a very tricky little bit that, I think. So from among those, there are those who insinuate themselves into their houses and take captive silly women who are burdened down with sins, they being led along by all sorts of desires, always learning and never being able to come into full knowledge of truth, literally. Hon tropon de I anes kai I ambres anestesan mause hutos kai hutoi anthistanai te aletheia anthropoi kataphthamenoi ton noon adokimoi peritain pistin. In the manner in which, now these are funny names here, it's Ianes and Iambres, or to put it into Latin perhaps, Janes and Jambres, stood up against Moses. Now these names here, these are names given here to the Egyptian magicians. The story is not contained in the Old Testament. It must have been part of some lost Jewish tradition. The names are, however, found in the Targum of Jonathan, which expounding Exodus 7:11. So it's very obscure Jewish reference here to a Targum, so some tradition that has been lost. So in the manner in which Janes and Jambres stood up against Moses, thus also, in this way also, they, and istantai, they stand up against the truth. And in opposition to them, they are men kataphthamenoi, perfect here, having been destroyed in respect of their minds, their minds corrupted, dokimoi, and reprobate, literally failing the test. We've seen that dokimos before, This is ardokimoi, you've been tested and failed. So it's often translated as reprobate, but it's literally failing the test in regard to the faith. U prokopsu sin epipleon, there's that prokopto again. They will not advance epipleon further. They will not make further progress, or they will not gain any further ground, perhaps, to paraphrase it a little bit. Hega anoia auton ek delos estai passin hos kai he ekenon egeneto. This is anoia, alpha privative, so their ignorance will be ek delos, obvious or visible, passin to all, hos kai he, just as also, he is going with the anoia, so just as also is was the ignorance, ekenon, must be referring back to Janis and Jambres. So as also was the ignorance of those men, that is, the ones referred to above. So that is the first part of chapter 3.